everybody, this is Pretty from It's a Pretty World. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm making a friend card using Concord and 9th Pica pattern stamp set. And the idea for this card is to take solid stamped images and make them look like line stamped images. So what I'm doing is I'm stamping all the pre-selected stamps onto a NEENAH Solar White 80-pound cardstock. And I'm choosing a very light shade of ink because I want to add Copic coloring over this, and I want those colors to, my Copic colors to look through it. And then once I'm done stamping all these images, I'm going to take a black multi-liner pen, which is of course Copic friendly, and I'm going to start drawing petals, and I'm being very deliberate about where I want these petals to be. So again, these flowers are quite whimsical. They're not any natural looking flowers out there in the nature. It's just an imaginative, maybe a rose, blooming rose. So I'm just drawing the petals. Now again, I do have the stamped image as my reference as to where I would like my petal to be, and most of these flowers are not going to look the same. They are going to look a little different, but once I've colored them all, at the end of it, they're going to look pretty much the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the lining, and then I'm going to color them with my Copic markers, and I'm going to fussy cut them, and I will be back soon after that. Alright, so here I am back again after coloring and fussy cutting all my images. Now I'm going to take my platform, my MISTI platform here, and I'm going to take a craft cardstock and the solid image that is, the solid stamp that is in the same stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it a couple of times using a lighter shade of gray. And the reason I'm doing it multiple times is because I want to be able to see it a bit to do the next step. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take some warm shades of Copic colors, and I'm going to start drawing in some wood grains. And my idea is for this solid piece to look like a tree trunk. So here, and then I will be back. Alright, so now I'm all done adding all the wood grains to my log, and it's time to do some die cutting. And this die cut, this friend die is from the same Pica pattern die set. And what I did was I die cut that friend using a craft foam and a white cardstock, and then adhered them together. And after I adhered them, I decided to separate this wood from the frame. The die is built into a frame, so I separated it from that so I could just use the wood friend. And once I had adhered to it, it was ready for me to start putting the card together. But then I realized that this craft cardstock needed something more, so I took the stitched rectangle die and I embossed it onto my craft cardstock. I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. Then I took some gouache, white gouache, onto my acrylic block, diluted it with some water, and I just splattered it onto my craft cardstock. I really like the look of paint splattering onto my art projects or whatever I do. Sometimes I really like that. And once I was done with that, it was time to go to the next step. But before that, I needed to clean up my craft mat or my glass mat. And I need to tell you, this is an amazing product. It just cleans up beautifully. I mean, this surface, I do everything on this surface, and really cleaning is the easiest thing ever. So once my cardstock was all dried, now it was time to start placing these flowers into the place where I wanted. And what you see is actually already pre-planned, because it took me, I'm not kidding you, it took me at least 30 minutes just to figure out where I wanted these flowers to be on that piece of log or on that piece of wood pattern that I created. And once I was satisfied, I committed and I adhered them onto the craft panel directly. I added no dimensions, no foam adhesives, nothing, because I wanted the friend die to lay flat onto the background that I created. And once I was done with that, I adhered the friend using the same NUVO adhesive, which again is by far my favorite liquid adhesive. This and the other adhesive I use is I think it's called the Gina K Connect Glue, and these two adhesives are amazing. They dry matte, they have some wiggle room to work, so I really love it. So once I was done with that, I took a NEENAH Solar White 110-pound cardstock note card, and I adhered that craft panel onto the note card. And initially I thought I would adhere it directly with no borders, but I looked at it and I said no, it wasn't giving that oomph to the card. So I just cut an eighth of an inch from all the side using my guillotine cutter. And then when I placed it on my white cardstock, oh, that made so much sense, and it looked so much more cohesive in the design. And then it was time to commit and adhere this panel onto my white cardstock or my white note card. Again, I used the same glue. And once I was done placing this onto it, it was time to add some blings and some beautiful sparkles to it. But before I did that, I had kept the tiddle for the eye carefully so that I don't lose it. My work surface, I tell you, it's chaos and I easily lose stuff. So I was very careful to keep the tiddle. And after I was done, I placed the tiddle onto the eye. You don't want your eye with no tiddle on it. Anyway, now I'm here getting ready to place the gems, and placing the gems is a whole other story. It is difficult because I have very shaky hands, and it's hard for me to really do detailed stuff. But the tweezer that I'm using is a wonderful tool. It is my best friend on my craft table. I use it always. So here I am placing all the gems using my tweezers. And the other tool I like also is the jewel picker. It helps me to pick the jewel easily and adhere it. So these two tools are amazing, and they just work wonderfully for me. So once I was done placing all the jewels, it was time to add some NUVO crystal drops in a yellow shade, and just in the center of 3 of those tiny or the little flowers, just to add a little pop of color in the midst of pinks and reds. And then it was time to add some additional sentiment to this card. So the whole sentiment actually read, "For a wonderful friend." So for the sentiment, I embossed it with a white embossing ink, and the white embossing ink that I used was Brutus Monroe's Alabaster Fine Detail embossing powder, and I really like this embossing powder. And after I was done embossing it, I die cut the sentiment, and I adhered that sentiment directly onto the friend die cut. And after I was done with that, I think that was it. That was all it, and then the card was all done. And I think it turned out pretty good, and it's another way of stretching your existing stamps. And thank you for visiting me, and give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and hope to see you here next time. Thank you. Bye bye.